It's the Pillowcast with Lane McCullum. If you've got friends, you better call them. This podcast exists for absolutely no reason. Yeah. It's the only thing worse than federal treason.
Hello, all you pillow people. Welcome back to another episode of Pillowcast. It's been a very long time since any episodes have come out of this show. For those of you who are here from the old days, I assume none of you are. But for those of you who are here and are confused on what exactly is going on with Pillowcast right now, I'm going to explain all that. I'm going to kind of break this up into two different sections for this episode. So it's going to be kind of like a double feature. So the first half is going to be me talking about, where the show has been, what's going on with the show, some Pillowcast lore. And then in the second half, we're going to do an album ranking, just because I feel like it. I used to do album rankings a little bit, and so we're going to do that. So, firstly, before we talk about anything, we're back. Pillowcast is back. Season 2, baby. Let's go. It's been a long time. It's been I think 6 years since the last episode. I think the last episode was March of 2020, which was the top 10 favorite Prince songs I did with my boy Amari. And since then, the show just kind of stopped. It just kind of stopped. It just kind of ran out. And I'll explain that. I'm going to explain that. But ever since the show stopped, I really did miss it. Because the whole deal with Pillowcast was, it started out as kind of just like a side project thing. Just a kind of a thing where I could just talk about whatever the hell I wanted to talk about. It didn't have to be professional. It didn't have to even sound good. I didn't even have to talk professionally or anything. It was literally just a show where if I felt like sitting down and talking, I would just record and I would just talk about whatever I felt like talking about. And it was kind of like a side project on my YouTube channel and stuff at the time. And I think the reason why it stopped was because of quarantine. So for those of you who are in the know, y'all definitely remember, back in 2020, the pandemic hit, and all of us were stuck inside for pretty much the whole year. And it was horrible. And while I do think that was a very formative time for me in my life, it also meant that a lot of things changed, a lot of things stopped, a lot of things started. And specifically around quarantine, I was learning how to play guitar. In some of the older episodes I did with Hunter, back in 2019, you probably heard us like fiddling around with the guitar, messing around with instruments and stuff. I didn't know how to play back then, but by the time quarantine was starting, I was getting the hang of the instrument. I wasn't very good at it, but I was still, trying my best at it. And I think it was more focused on that than doing anything. Me and my friends had a thing called Window People Records, which I actually might make a whole episode about, where I talk about the lore behind Window People Records, because there is a lot of lore. There is a lot of lore to cover with Window People Records, and that's a great idea for a future episode, so hold on to that. But we were working on Window People Records, and we were making our own music and stuff. And I was so much more focused on making music than I was posting on YouTube or keeping up with this podcast. So right around after that last episode got posted, I just kind of forgot about Pillowcast, and I didn't really do anything with it. And I've tried to bring it back before. I honestly only really one other time. For those of you who are not in the loop, me and my friend Landon had a podcast about a year or two ago that we started it, and it was called Paper Pals. And the podcast was pretty much, it just kind of centered around emo music, indie music, punk music, just all that kind of music. And originally, before we did Paper Pals, we were just going to make a reboot of Pillowcast that was just me and him. And that didn't really happen. So that's the only other time that the show was really going to come back at any point. But it didn't really happen. We recorded an episode and then decided to just make a whole show about emo music. We don't make it anymore, unfortunately. It's kind of, Landon doesn't really want to do them anymore. Maybe we'll do something else, but that's kind of what happened with Paper Pals. But that's the only other time that I was thinking about bringing the show back. But now, I'm finally bringing it back. I'm bringing all of it back. I had to archive all the old episodes because the thing with the show was I hadn't used the account for a while, and I guess it just got removed for some reason. I didn't delete it, but I guess it just got taken down. I mean, maybe because I used copyrighted songs in some of the older episodes. I would play like full-length songs in some of them, so that's probably why. But the account got taken down. I wasn't able to log into it, so these probably aren't going to go up on podcasting platforms, the new episodes. They're probably not going to go on any podcasting platforms like Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anything, just because I don't really feel like making a new account for it, and I already have all the old episodes archived on this channel, Sharkly Ninja Like, which is where I'm going to be posting them from now on. So that's where you're going to find them from now on. But the account was deleted and whatever, and the only place I could find the old episodes was on this website called Listen Notes. They're like a podcast archiving platform, and I thought it was really weird that the old episodes were on there, because for years I thought that the Pillowcast episodes were just lost media. All 28 of them that I had made before then, all of them were just lost media. I thought they were just lost. I wasn't able to get them back. And eventually I just found that website with Pillowcast on it, like all the episodes archived, and it was really strange to go back and listen to all of them after I hadn't heard them for years. I'm not sure how that happened, because one, you can't find the podcast anywhere on Spotify or Apple now, all those old episodes. I don't know how they're still archived. And two, for a little bit, I had removed the MJ Kid Community episode, because I guess I just didn't want drama or whatever on the podcast. I'd removed it from the canon, but it was still on there. I don't know why I removed that. That's easily one of the best episodes of the show with my boy Landon. I just talked about him earlier. But yeah, the show was just gone for a little bit, off Spotify and all that. I didn't know where it was. I found out on Listen Notes a few years ago. Started screen recording all the episodes, because since I only have like a mobile device and not a computer, I had to screen record all of them instead of downloading them to post them on Sharkly Ninja Like. So it was kind of a pain in the ass, but we managed to do it. I have all 28 episodes uploaded, and here's episode 29, season 2, I guess. The original game plan for season 1 was to have 30 episodes, and then it was going to stop. And I was going to, do some other stuff, go into season 2, I guess. But we were almost there. And I just forgot about the show. So hopefully we'll do it. Well, we're probably going to do 30 episodes a season. I think that's probably the game plan. That was the game plan originally. So I guess it's going to be the game plan now. Do I have anything in mind for topics to discuss on this? Not currently. Other than the Wind of People episode, I might get one of the guys, like Amari or Landon, to hop on for that one. But other than that, I don't really have a game plan, which there wasn't never really a game plan for Pillowcast anyway. Like I said, it was just like kind of a random hodgepodge of stuff. But yeah, album reviews and stuff will still be a part of it. We'll have collabs maybe if guys want to do it. And just like stuff like that. Might tell some life stories and stuff. Because specifically I want to shout out my homie Trinity, who's like the number one Pillowcast fan on the planet. She listened to all the old episodes back when I was posting them originally, and she's actually the reason why I'm bringing it back, because she wanted me to, because she liked it back in the day. I don't know how, because the episodes were horrible. But she also, whenever we were talking about it and how I was going to bring back the podcast and all that, she was like, you should talk about your life. You should talk about your life stories and stuff. So that's what I'm going to do maybe for some of the episodes. Maybe I'll talk about some embarrassing life stories or something, and we'll do stuff like that. I might even do like concert reviews and stuff, because I'm a very big concert goer as of recently. Actually, in one of the future episodes, I might talk about my recent experience going to see Danny Brown in Pittsburgh. That might be a cool episode. By the way, before we get into anything else, if you guys hear wind in the microphone or anything like that during this, it's probably because I'm on my roof right now. I'm recording this shit on my roof. It is a little windy. It's not terribly windy, but it's still, there's a light breeze going around. You might hear some like birds chirping. You probably already have. But that's probably why you'll hear wind sounds, if you hear any at all. But yeah, so before I get into the album ranking, which if you've read the title, you know what the album is, I want to talk a little bit about the Pillowcast lore some more. I kind of already did earlier where I was talking about, like, what happened to the old episodes and stuff like that. But I really want to go in. Honestly, it probably won't be that long now that I think about it, because there's not really a lot of lore to the podcast, really. Because like I said, it was just a thing I did when I was bored. But the first bit of lore that I want to talk about involves the new intro that you just heard. So that intro was made by an old acquaintance of mine back in the day. His name is JD. He is doing a show called J Sits now, I think. I haven't talked to him in years. But he made that intro like in 2020, I think, like making fun of the podcast, pretty much. Just pretty much making fun of the podcast, because he thought it was stupid. It was a really stupid show back then. I don't blame him. But he made that. I never used it. And I don't talk to him anymore, really, so I don't know if he's probably not even going to know that I'm using the intro, but I'm using that little meme intro that he made as the intro for the podcast now. So if he hears this, what's up, JD? I'm using your old intro that you probably forgot you even made, but I'm using it. So yeah, that's the first thing that I want to talk about is the lore behind that. The intro was made by JD, Jace Bane, history in the mix for all the old people out there. The older people out there that were around whenever he was big in the Michael Jackson fandom. Secondly, I mentioned in one of the older Pillowcast episodes, I think, I'm not entirely sure, that I was going to put out some lost Pillowcast episodes after the 30 episodes for the first season were posted and all that. I would like to still do that, but as I mentioned earlier, the old podcast account is gone now. So there are actually, all the unreleased episodes were with Hunter originally. So it was, we did a Black Parade review, I think. We didn't entirely finish it, but we got like halfway through and I was going to release that as like a bonus. And there was another one where it was me, Hunter, and my friend Joey, and we were all going to do a podcast, and it was basically just like Hunter talking to Joey and like me introducing Hunter to Joey. From what I remember, I haven't heard it since, and it's all lost media now. Other than that, there's not really any lost episodes. The only other one is me and Landon tried to revive the show. As I said earlier, we were going to do a review of Somewhere City by Origami Angel, which was going to be like just a review of the album, pretty much. So nothing too special. We did do another podcast, from what I remember. I don't remember if this was for Pillowcast or not, but we did another podcast like during our peak black metal era, where we were just talking about like black metal and like the lore behind black metal. I don't remember if that was for Pillowcast or if it was for something else. And speaking on the podcast lore, actually, a year after Pillowcast ended, actually, me, Landon, and another friend of mine, Nick, who was on the podcast before, I think, we made a podcast, an episode together for a show that was going to be called Queers Fighting Society. It was going to be called Queers Fighting Society, and it was just us talking about, like, stuff that happened in the world or something, and then we would do, like, some comedy bits in between. I think one of the first news topic we talked about was when, the Whip Nene kid, whatever his name is, whenever he killed his cousin. Oh, I think that was the news topic that we talked about. Silento is his name. I think that's what we were going to talk about, and then we didn't end up doing it. That lasted one episode, and then we never did anything with it. Probably for the better, because that would have been horrible. Yeah. The only other podcast I've really done since then is Paper Pals. But actually, me and my friend Amari, who I've mentioned him a bunch of times on this episode already, are planning on doing a podcast maybe soon in the future. Talking about the Mew board, the 4chan music board list, where we talk about all the albums. We've tried doing it twice, and we only did like one episode and then didn't do it again. But that's, hopefully we'll do it and actually stick to it this time. That would be pretty cool. So yeah, there's not really a lot of lore really anymore on the rest of the podcast. You guys have pretty much heard all the episodes that have been made, except for those 2 unreleased ones that never got made. Other than the Pillow playlist thing, which I talked about in the season 1, if you guys remember all that. I talked about how me and Hunter were going to do a Pillow playlist thing. We were going to get together a bunch of songs and talk about all the songs as the Pillow playlist as the finale for season 1. I probably won't bring that back, but we never recorded the episode, so that's just kind of out there as an idea that I might bring back or something. And one more thing before I get into this. Further down the line, I might talk about some of the music that I've been making, because if you guys don't know, I have been making music pretty heavily for the last few years. I have an acoustic emo project, if you want to call it that, called Teddy Diary. I have an album out and 2 EPs currently at the moment. If you want to check that out, you can. And I'm also currently working on a side project called Schoolyard Sacrifice, which is just a bunch of like weird instrumental, noisy, I don't really know how to describe it, but if you want to listen to it, you can. Just look up those names on SoundCloud. I'm not going to link them or anything, but you guys can listen to those if you want to. Yeah, that's been the main thing. And I also, the project is kind of laying low right now, so it's another excuse to bring back the podcast, fuck it. So yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of the Pillowcast lore, getting you back up to speed. Season 2, baby. Pillowcast Season 2. Let's go. We're back in this bitch. We're going to be making some episodes now. See, I can swear now because I'm an adult. You remember I used to censor myself all the time? Yeah, I can fucking swear now, bitches. I don't give a shit. So yeah, now that we've got all that out of the way, for the first half of this double feature of Pillowcast, we're going to talk about an album now. We're going to do an album ranking. I think on this podcast, I've done 2 album rankings, I think. on the last season, I think I did Prince's For You, which I think that was just a review. I don't think I did a ranking of it. And Pearl Jam's Vitalogy album, which I have not heard in years. But I think I ranked it at the end. But this one's not going to be a traditional review. I'm not going to go like track by track and review everything. I'm just going to go through each song in the order of the ranking that I have. And what album is this, Lane? What album are we talking about today? Today we are talking about easily one of my favorite albums of all time. One of my current favorite albums. I just discovered it about a few months ago. But easily one of my favorite records ever. And that's going to be Frailty by Jane Remover. Jane Remover. If you guys know who Jane Remover is, then you know the album. If you don't know who Jane Remover is, they're the fucking GOAT. They're easily one of the best producers out right now. They have an incredible discography. Frailty was the first album they released as Jane Remover, but they have like a ton of projects under a bunch of different side names like Leroy and Venturing and Hate Page and whatever else you want to consider Jane Remover. There's so many other pseudonyms and stuff that they go by. But Frailty was really their first big album. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to rank all the songs. So I have my ranking in my notes right now. If you guys know the album, I don't know if some of these placements are controversial. I think my top picks are pretty similar to what a lot of people feel. But near the bottom, there might be some controversial ones. I'm not sure. I haven't really gauged a lot of... Oh, sorry, I just burped my brains out. I don't really know the general consensus of the quality of these songs. So I'm not entirely sure how my ranking is going to align with other people, but this is just how I feel personally about the album, and I just love it. It's perfect. So even the songs ranked lower on this list are easily some of my favorite Jane Remover songs, period. And yeah, so we're just going to hop right in. I'm going to review the songs in the ranking order that I have them in, and so album's 13 tracks, number 13 on my ranking is the interlude track, I guess. If you've watched, there's a video on YouTube where Jane breaks down the project files for Frailty around the time it came out. And they consider this kind of like an interlude track. So that's what I call it, even though it's pretty much a fully fleshed out song. But at number 13, I have Buzzcut Daisy. Easily one of the least complex instrumentals on the entire record. It's more of just like this acoustic guitar thing with a little bit of atmosphere in the back. There's like a vocal sample halfway through. But overall, definitely one of the least complex instrumentals on the album, and not really one of the songs that represents the rest of the track listing, really. It's definitely the most interlude-y on the album. There's an intro track kind of as well, but this is definitely the most simplistic song on the album, or at least second because of the intro track, which we'll talk about later. But it's still a great song, great song. One thing you'll notice is I'm going to praise the vocal melodies a lot on this album. The vocals here aren't as dynamic as they would be on later Jane projects like Census Designated and Ghost Holding, but the vocals here are still pretty catchy. There's a lot of really nice catchy melodies, and while there's not a whole lot of vocal experimentation in those like crazy runs and shit like they do on Venturing now, they're still very good. Very nice vocals. A lot of them have this very processed robotic sound to them, which I kind of like because it adds to like the overall digital feel of the record. And so I like that. And I think Buzzcut Daisy has a great melody throughout the chorus, like, is it too much to say I want it back? I like that. I think that's a very catchy melody. Buzzcut Daisy, still my least favorite, but it's still a great track. My number 12 is going to be the opening track, Goldfish. As I said earlier, this is the most simplistic track on the record. It is just Jane with an acoustic guitar for pretty much the whole thing. It's a very, very pretty acoustic song. It's a great intro to this record. It sets up the record nicely. And it's interesting because this was really the first album that I'd ever listened to that had elements of electronic and hyperpop in it. Currently now I'm in a very big electronic music and hyperpop lane. I've been listening to a lot of Underscores and Nina Geraci and 8485 and Frost Children. Just a lot of current electropop, hyperpop, whatever you want to call it. A lot of artists like that. And Frailty was really my gateway into that. But I was very surprised when the album opened up with an acoustic track like this before it got into the electronic shit. It kind of eased me in a little bit, and I kind of liked that. But I also like that it starts the album out very calmly before it gets into a lot of the loud stuff. Very good song. I really like the low quality of it. It just very subdued before we get into the loud stuff later on. So great opening track. Very, very good. Just in terms of the rest of the songs, I don't come back to it really on its own. I only really listen to it in the context of the record because I think it really sets the stage nicely. But that's about it. Number 11, this one I actually didn't expect to rank this low. I've always really liked it, but I didn't really expect it to rank at number 11. But we have the song How to Lie, which I think was one of the singles off the record. I don't entirely remember. This song is just pretty good. It's a pretty good song. Very melodic vocal lines on here. It's just a very straightforward song. And near the middle, there's kind of like a breakdown, but it's one of the weaker breakdowns on the record, though it is still very good. The big highlight, though, of this song is the ending breakdown where the drums keep pummeling and then they stop around the end of each bar, and there's kind of like a break with a sample thrown in there. Specifically, one of my favorites is I think there's an Undertale sample there where like one of the dialogue plays during the game. I think that's one of the sound effects that plays. I'm not entirely sure, but that's what it sounds like to me. And it's super cool. I love that part every time it gets to that part. It's easily my favorite section. And then if you guys have listened to any of the Leroy stuff, any of the Daria Core albums, there's a scream sound effect that they use very prominently in those Daria Core songs. And it's also featured very prominently at the end of How to Lie, which is really cool. And that's a big thing with Jane's discography is they sample themselves a lot. So you will hear sound effects from other albums and other songs bleed into other ones, and it kind of ties everything together, even though the albums are released under different pseudonyms and, all that stuff, and they're very different genre-wise. There's little stuff like that ties them all together, and I really like that. Number 10 originally was my least favorite on the record when I first heard it, but coming back is just a masterpiece of a song, and the fact that a song like this is only at number 10 says a lot about how I view the rest of the record. But we have the second to last track on the album, Eyes Off the Wheel, I'm a Star. This one seems to hold a lot of weight in the fan base when people talk about Frailty, and I love it. I think it's a really great song before we get into the final track. It's easily the most experimental in nature on the record. There's not really one consistent sound through it. It has a bunch of different sections. There's a really cool section with kind of blast beaty drums, not really, but they're very fast pummeling drums. The ending, though, is really, really good because it has these really depressing chords, and everything just kind of like swells in sound, and like everything is just getting louder and more crunchy, and then the song just cuts off, and then we get into the final song on the record, which we'll talk about. But one thing I am going to mention is that this album has easily some of the best sequencing I've ever heard out of any album I've ever listened to. I think the flow is just perfect, and Eyes Off the Wheel, I'm a Star into Let's Go Home is just one of the best decisions on the entire record, because the song ends with this very dark, depressing, atmospheric section, and then goes into the more twinkly, chirpy sounds of Let's Go Home, which I think is really, really good. It's a perfect juxtaposition, especially because the last few tracks on the album are kind of bummers. Not that they're bad songs, they're great songs, but Champ and Can You Tell and How to Lie and this song, Eyes Off the Wheel, I'm a Star, have a very just kind of not necessarily depressing mood, but they kind of put you down in the dumps a little bit. And this song specifically, the ending of it has a very depressing, atmospheric mood. But I think it's a really, really good juxtaposition to have Let's Go Home at the end of the record after that. Overall, great song, fantastic song, one that grew on me a lot listening to the record, but still not one of my absolute favorites. It's not one that I put on outside of the record very often, but still a great song. Number 9 was also one of my least favorite songs originally, going back to the album, but now it's definitely grown on me very heavily, and that's the song Can You Tell. Jane has experimented with shoegaze since this album on records like Census Designated, which is a very shoegazy feel to it. A lot of the songs have these really blown out guitars and a lot of guitar layers on them, but this song is kind of like Jane doing shoegaze before the guitars, Like, Jane plays guitar a lot on this record, but this song definitely has the least amount of guitar on the record. But it's got this very atmospheric wall of sound kind of feel to it. Just a lot of these swirling synths and a lot of these swirling electronics just going past you. And I think it's just really, really good. I specifically love during the chorus sections, whenever the instrumental kind of subdues a little bit and Jane sings the chorus, like, how many times do I gotta tell you the world is in your hands and you never believe it. I love that part. I love that the instrumentals kind of die down when that part comes in, and afterwards they just explode with these swirling synths. It's one of my favorite instrumentals on the record. I think it's super good. And also it could rise in the rankings for sure with time. The more this record lives with me. But that's where it stands right now, number 9. Number 8 is a song I loved immediately, and I was shocked to find that a lot of people don't really like it as much as some of the other songs, which I think is crazy. I really do like this song. I think it's the longest song on the record, or one of them. It's almost 7 minutes long, but it's the song Champ, which is a very, very good song. This is actually one of the more lyric-heavy songs on the record. I really do like Jane's writing on this record, but this song has easily some of my favorite lines on the entire record. And I just love it. I think it's a great lyrical showcase. It's another one where the instrumentals are very sparse and very simple. It's mostly just a MIDI piano in the background with some chords and stuff. But I think it really works, and it really brings a highlight to the lyrics on the song. It's a great song. Definitely one of the songs I put on more casually from the record. If I just want to hear one from the record and I'm not looking to listen to the whole thing, sometimes I'll put Champ on. Gets me in a good mood. Just a great, gorgeous song. And that's really all I can say about it. It's a great song. Number 7. Number 7, we're getting into serious territory now with number 7. Number 7 is the closing track, Let's Go Home. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. So like I said, the pacing and the sequencing of this album is done very well, and specifically the transition from Eyes Off the Real, I'm a Star into Let's Go Home is just fantastic. I think it's just a great juxtaposition of moods, and this song is easily one of the most uplifting in terms of the music on the album, but it's actually one of the most depressing lyrically. Like one of my favorite lines on the whole record is, I still have no fucking clue what I'll do when I'm older, too busy making out with the devil on my shoulder. Great lyric. I love that, and that comes right before the big breakdown, the big climax of the song near the end. Just a great lyric, and the whole song has that really nice juxtaposition with the lyrics and the music, where the music is very happy and cheerful and stuff, and then the lyrics are very, very depressing. But it's a great bookend of the album. I think this is the perfect closer for the album. I love the opening synth leads on this, and the ending whenever they close out. It sounds kind of like a crowd of birds chirping, like a crowd of electronic robotic birds chirping, kind of like the birds chirping around me if you hear them. Yeah, great song. One thing I actually haven't mentioned yet, because I don't think it's appeared on any of the songs up to this point on the ranking, is the Frailty motif, the do-do-do-do-do-do-do, that little synth lead that goes throughout a lot of the songs. This is the last song you hear it in, is right at the end. And I love that about this album. One of my favorite things in music is reoccurring motifs. A lot of my favorite albums have them. And this is another one where there's a motif that goes throughout all the, for a few of the songs, but throughout the whole album. You hear it first on the song Your Clothes, and then it's on Search Party. I think it's on Kodak Moment, and you hear it again for the final time on Let's Go Home. Fantastic motif, gets stuck in my head constantly. I love that about this album. I think it was super creative. It ties everything together very nicely. And yeah, Let's Go Home is just a great use of that final motif. It feels like it was written for the song. I think Let's Go Home was one of the first songs made for the album. I could be wrong about that. But the motif sounds like it was written for this song. And it's perfect, honestly, because it summarizes the rest of the album up very nicely. So, super cool. Number 6 is one of the more guitar-heavy songs on the record, which is Pretender. This song is like half instrumental, but the instrumental part is actually my favorite part of the song. Starts off with a lot of vocals, and then by the end, there's this really catchy guitar line that goes through it. And as it keeps going, there's a lot of this just building instrumentation around it. Super good song. That ending part could go on for like 5+ minutes, and I wouldn't even care. Easily one of my favorite musical sections of the whole record. Not really a lot to say about the song. It's just easily one of my favorites, one of my most replayed on the album. I love it to death. So yeah, number 6, Pretender. Number 5 is another contender for one of the best songs lyrically on the record. This one, and I think Champ, and Let's Go Home. Those would be like my 3 songs that would be the best lyrically on the record. But number 5 is Search Party. One of the singles off the album, one of the most popular tracks here, and for a good reason. This song is just absolutely fantastic. It's definitely one of the more structured songs on the album. It kind of has a standard pop structure to it, but I love that about it. But yeah, the song starts out very simplistic. It has kind of a nice acoustic guitar bass, and as the song goes on, it just progressively gets more and more built upon. The ending is easily one of my favorite parts of the whole record, where the instrumentation kind of crawls down a bit before just exploding at the end. Just this great barrage of guitars and synth leads. Just absolutely fantastic. Easily one of my favorite moments on the whole record. And it's just a very catchy song to sing along to. I love the lyricism on this one. Just love the fuzzed out guitar on this one too. And something that really surprised me is that not only had Jane really just started learning how to play guitar when they made this record, but a lot of the guitars on the record are actually acoustic guitars that have been altered in post to make them sound like electric guitars. And they're very convincing if you listen through. Tracks like Your Clothes and Misplace have guitar lines that sound like electric guitars, but they're actually fuzzed out acoustic guitar chords and stuff, which I think is really creative. Yeah, number 5, Search Party. Number 4 was one that really did not stand out to me at all upon first listen to the record. But every time I play this album front to back, this song just slowly creeps up more and more up my list, my mental list when I listen. And that'll be the song Misplace. I love this song. It does a very good job of the loud, quiet, loud dynamic. Where the verses are very, very tame. Very, very tame. There's a lot of acoustic guitar, a lot of just melodies and stuff that carry them. And the chorus doesn't even really have a chorus. It's more of just an instrumental as the chorus. But easily one of the best and most energetic parts of the album is the chorus sections on Misplace. Especially the ending. I just love this song. I think it's super good. I wouldn't say it's underrated, but it's definitely a song that I feel like should hold a higher throne than it does. It should be up there with like the Movies for Guys of the album, you know? And speaking of Movies for Guys, number 3 is Movies for Guys. This was actually the first song I heard off the record. I wanted to kind of get a taste of what I was getting into before I listened, and I remember listening to Movies for Guys first, and just being captivated by the opening, that opening electronic section. Got a real nice thump to it, you know? Really nice pulse in there. I love that opening section. It's kind of like a multi-section song, which is really, really cool. So it has the opening, which is more kind of in the style of the rest of the songs that we've heard, kind of similar to Your Clothes or Misplace. But then it gets into this more breakdown section. It's got a lot of glitchy parts in it, more just pounding drums going on in there, a lot of vocal samples, a lot of swirling vocals between the channels. Very, very cool. Probably my favorite part of the song. And then we get to the ending, which is easily the quietest, most subdued section of the song, where it's just guitar and Jane singing along. Very, very good. One of the catchiest melodies on the record, that I don't really want to be someone that gets in your way. I love that part. Probably the catchiest part on the whole record. I think there's an airplane flying above me. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Kind of cool. Sorry, I don't know if it will ruin the listening experience if you hear that. But yeah, definitely my favorite melody on the whole record. Easily one of my favorite parts of the entire album. And then we get the top 2. Number 2 is going to be Kodak Moment. I know this is a lot of people's number 1. It's very close to being my number 1, but it's number 2 for me. This song is masterful. It is honestly just a perfect song. I think objectively it is a better song than my number 1, but I just personally like my number 1 more. But Kodak Moment is just incredible. Just absolutely incredible. It kind of has a similar structure to Movies for Guys, where the first section is kind of, like I said, in a similar structure towards the rest of the album. Again, like A Year Close, a Movies for Guys, a Misplace, a Search Party. But it's kind of more of a piano base to it, which I really like. Anytime there's a piano on this record, it's utilized great, and you'll see that as we go later on in the track. But then after that section, I remember the first time I heard this because it freaked me the fuck out, but in a good way. The song just breaks down and it sounds like it's just like the tape has been cut into like a bunch of different sections and like pasted back together. You know, it's just an insane glitchcore breakdown. When I first heard it, I didn't really think there was a rhythm to it, but there kind of is. You have to listen for it, but there is kind of a rhythm to it. There is kind of a pattern to the glitch. Super, super good. Just these really electronic, just shots coming at you over and over again. It sounds like you're being shot by by a robot, but like being shot with lasers repeatedly. And in between some of these sections, there are these really pretty atmospheric sections that sounds like you're being like thrown into the atmosphere, and you're like catching debris and shit, and you're just like going up into the fucking atmosphere and shit. I don't know. I'm bad at explaining things. But it just keeps getting in more and more intense, and then everything is just crunching and just like crushing you, and it's crazy. And then the song just abruptly cuts off, and then all of a sudden, you hear the DS start. You hear the Nintendo DS startup noise, and it just sounds like you're peacefully dropping back to Earth after being destroyed in the atmosphere for so long. And this gorgeous piano comes in, and it's just easily the most beautiful section on the record. This little section from the ending of that part into the piano here is easily one of the best things I've ever heard. It gets me emotional every time I listen to it, genuinely. Just a piece of music that has moved me so much in the last few months. And you get that Frailty motif again right near the end. It's just a perfect song. It has 3 incredible sections. All of them work together amazingly. The transitions between them, I would not change a single note about this song. And it would be my number 1 if Your Clothes did not exist, which is my number 1 on the album. I think a big reason why this is my number 1 is because before listening to Frailty, I hadn't really heard a lot of electronic music. I hadn't really listened to a lot of electronic music, hyperpop, that kind of lane. I had never really heard anything like it. So when I listened to this album and we got past Goldfish and went into Your Clothes, it was fucking crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy. I had never heard anything like it. I knew that stuff like this was out there and it existed, but I didn't know that it was something that I could actually enjoy, you know? So Your Clothes was definitely proof to me that I like this kind of music and I would love to seek more of it out. It's just a perfect pop song. Easily some of the most catchy melodies on the album. I feel like I'm recycling a lot of the same things when I talk about these songs, but just a perfect song. Incredible album opener. Other than Goldfish, I think this is like the true opener for the album. Just fantastic. And if you need a good gateway into this genre as a whole, or just a gateway into Jane's music, pre-Census and Revenge Seekers and all that, this is a great song to listen to. Just a fantastic song. I say like pre-Census doesn't get into Revenge Seekers because Jane does not sound like this anymore. Clearly, they change sound like every album. This is more of like a hyper-pop, electro-pop album, and then Census is like alt-rock, shoegaze album, and then Revenge Seekers is just a fucking rage album. And they've done a bunch of other sounds and stuff too. They've done atmospheric ambient music with Jameson Bleach Waters, which is one of their side projects. They've done like more of a traditional electronic sound with Hate Page, which I'm listening through the Hate Page albums currently. And they're not my favorite stuff by Jane, but they're still very good. And of course, Daria Core, which actually I might talk about Daria Core at some part of the podcast just because I love the Daria Core trilogy of albums so much. Actually, I just listened to the first one today. Yeah, great albums. But that's why I say listen to all that stuff as kind of its own thing. Teen Week and Frailty and the stuff before that. It's all kind of its own different thing. But yeah, that's my ranking of Frailty. And that is the Pillowcast reboot episode, season 2. We're here again. I don't know how well this is going to sound. I don't know if my review was even good. I don't know if my commentary even means anything here. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed the comeback episode of Pillowcast. We're going to be talking about life stories, albums, concerts, fucking movies maybe. Just whatever I feel like talking about. Pillowcast has always been a hodgepodge. That's what it's going to be. That's what it's going to continue to be. We're going to keep the Pillowcast spirit going. And it doesn't matter if 1 million people listen or if 10 people listen. I don't give a fuck. We're going to keep this shit going because I miss making it. So yeah, that's going to be the end of Pillowcast, for today. Make sure to subscribe and save the playlist or whatever. I don't really know how to do this anymore now because, I'm not doing like a traditional podcast format, like posting it on podcast platforms and stuff. I'm kind of just posting it to YouTube. But if you like what you hear, subscribe, do all that jazz. And yeah, we'll catch you on the next episode of Pillowcast. And saying this for the first time in many years, stay fluffy, everybody. Peace out.